Hello people, welcome to the channel. Chances are you've seen the title and the thumbnail, so here it is, my attempt at beating Pokémon Emerald using only Treecko. Before anything else, let's talk about rules, as my rule set might differ from what you expect. No items in battle and overleveling are common restrictions for any hardcore challenge, so nothing new here. But in order to make this challenge not only more interesting but also possible, I have 3 really important additional rules. I'll use only Treecko as a species and I won't use more than one at a time, but I'll be allowed to train as many as I want. This rule allows me to play a lot around natures, IVs, EVs and movesets. Every TM and every tutor move can be taught an infinite amount of times. Breeding is allowed. This not only gives me access to the egg moves, but helps a lot finding Pokémons with good IV and nature. There are some specific limitations, but right now I don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of details, so I'll explain them later if needed. Anyway, let's talk about Treecko now. Just like the other starters, it has a 310 base stats, speed being the highest. With proper training, I'm sure I'll be able to outspeed every single opponent, but on the other hand, Treecko is really frail, and that has me really worried. No idea what I'm gonna do against Winona, for example. By leveling up, Treecko probably has the most lackluster moveset among all the starters. It only gets 40 base power moves until level 36, when it learns Slam, and at that point, better options are available. Screech has limited uses since Treecko is more special attack oriented. Agility won't be useful in an already fast Pokémon, Detect is learned far too late, Giga Drain is great, but at that point I have the TM anyway, so you get the picture. The learnable TMs list is pretty long and that might look promising, but apart from the grass moves, they are all physical moves and therefore they aren't going to perform very well. As I'm writing this part of the script, I'm not far into the run yet and honestly, I'm getting worried. I didn't realize the move pool was so limited. The breeding moves feature some great options, but I won't talk about them now. Picking at the tutor moves, you might be once again fooled by this long list, but most of them are only accessible in the post-game at the Battle Frontier. So yeah, we are left with a really limited amount of tools. As you can see, I start the run by repeatedly resetting to find a Treecko able to pull me through the first section of the game. It took a while since I also needed to be female, but I eventually find her. This is probably not necessary, but to avoid getting extra experience and undesired DVs on my speed, I let the Zigzagoon attack me until it flees from the battle. The first gym is going to be the easiest of the run, given my type advantage, but I want to do only the strictly mandatory battles before facing Roxanne. There is a reason for this, but right now I want you to keep in mind that before Roxanne there are only 3 mandatory battles, and thus, when I reach Rustboro, Tricky is only level 8, and Rock Tomb would probably one-shot her. Lucky for me, there's an Iker North Rustboro that will be mandatory to access the Whismur Cave, so after dodging all the spinners, I can face him for some extra EXP. The reason for all of this meticulousness will be clear soon, but first, let's go pay a visit to Roxanne. So, as you can see, Tricky is now level 10. The first 2 Geodudes should not be a problem since I'll be able to heal back all the damage with Absorb. Speaking of which, it's actually not enough to one-shot despite the quadruple effectiveness and Geodude's poor special defense. I mean, I'm not surprised, it's just a 20 base power move and I'm under-leveled. In fact, I am glad about it because now Roxanne is going to waste both potions on her Geodudes. Not that it matters too much, but I get a double defense score, so there isn't even any damage to heal back. But Noospass is on another level, and you are seeing that Absorb doesn't really do all that much, while a single Rock Tomb brings me down to half HP and triggers my Oran Berry. The saving grace is that the AI won't use Rock Tomb unless I'm faster or in kill range, so if Noospass doesn't use Tackle too much, I might be able to stay out of kill range thanks to Absorb. Noospass also has an Oran Berry, and at a certain point things got really scary, but in the end Tricky was able to land the final hit right when she was about to get Rock Tomb to death. With the first gym defeated, I now have to face the Team Aqua Grunt inside the Whismur Cave, and then Mr. Stone not only asks me to deliver the Devon goods to Slateport, but also, and more importantly, gives me the letter for Steven. Without any extra battle, I can complete the side quest right away, so that Mr. Stone rewards me with the XP share. Now I can split the experience while staying true to the only Treecko in battle rule, and this means that I have more room to EV train. I decided to focus on my defense and special attack, so Circun and Cascoon from the Petalburg Woods and Rolls from Route 102. All this training ended up backfiring on me, but you'll see for yourself. Time to face Broly. Machop is first, and I really don't mind taking some damage from him. I use the TM for Bullet Seed on Tricky, and the most efficient way to take him down is to hit at least 3 times twice, which is pretty likely. But Tricky decides to go nuts and lands a 5 hits Bullet Seed, which isn't actually good. After landing a fairly strong Karate Chop, Machop gets healed by a super potion, so it's back to square one, but with less HP. Bullet Seed hits 3 times, and even if Machop is down to yellow, it seems like 3 more hits might just barely not be enough. I probably should have used Absorb once, since if Tricky doesn't kill, it might die from a critical Karate Chop. As I suspected, 3 hits are indeed not enough, but a 4 hit Bullet Seed is, so with some luck we are past the Machop with a good amount of HP left. Now, since Meditite can only damage me with Focus Punch, I can easily restore all of my HP with Absorb and trigger Broly's second and last Super Potion. But if there has to be a brick wall, that's going to be Makuhita. Even if Broly cannot heal anymore, he has a Citrus Berry equipped, and after a couple of Ball Caps, Vital Throw can straight up one-shot me. I do have a plan, so let's see if it works. It seems like my first Absorb had a pretty low roll, so I'm just going to use another one, hoping for a Vital Throw from his part. I do get what I want, and my Absorb leaves him just barely out of berry range. But then I realize that my defense is actually too high, and even with a +1 attack, Makuhita did not put me into Overgrowth. Overgrowth is Treecko's ability, and it gives all grass-type moves 50% more power while below 33% HP. With that, a 3-hit Bullet Seed would have killed from here, but now my odds are much worse. But there is a way. This has to be the first time I don't see Bullet Seed hitting only 2 times for an entire battle, and while I would normally reset for some more average luck, I don't think I'll do it this time. I think the strategy was good, and all I'd have to do is to manipulate my HP against Meditite to actually get in Overgrowth range against Makuhita. Plus, first time victories are always nice. The next obstacle is the Slateport rival fight, and considering how bad are my moves and how strong is her Combusken, I might be in trouble. But there are 2 new moves I have access to, Screech and Swagger. Treecko learns Screech at level 21, and even if I'm not investing in my attack, it synergizes really well with Swagger, which I can learn thanks to a tutor in Slateport. It's not like I have a solid plan, but not much I can do until I get access to better moves. But let me tell you that if I was worried about Combusken, I was wrongly so. The real final boss is the level 18 Wingull. It has wing attack, so it's really dangerous to use Swagger, but at the same time, if I try to kill it with Absorb or Quick Attack, it's really slow and I end up dying anyway. Before making a change of plan, I at least wanted to see how actually difficult is Combusken, and after a dozen tries, I finally get past Wingull. I go for Swagger since I'm probably dead to Ember anyway, and I don't really have another play. Combusken actually hits itself in confusion, and that's some really good damage, probably more than I would do with my Quick Attack. So, I don't know if this is correct, but I decide to use Screech. And guess what? It was indeed correct. Combusken hits itself again, and due to the defense drop, it knocks itself out. Lombre is last, and I almost threw the match because I wanted to use Screech. At a certain point, a critical Swift would have killed Tricky, but thankfully that didn't happen, and we're past their hardest rival of the game. Reaching Movel is usually huge. The player gets access to the game corner TMs, and there's the daycare in case one wants a particular egg move or just wants to breed for better stats. But this is a Treecko run, and Treecko cannot learn any TM apart from Double Team, which I'm not going to use, and due to my breeding rules, not only I cannot get any egg move, but I can't even breed for stats. This is how it works. If I want to breed two Pokemon, I must have access to both species, and if there is an egg move that I want, it has to be learned by the father within the current level cap. In other words, I won't be able to use the daycare at least until I can catch a Seaviper, and there are some good moves that I won't be able to learn at all. Endeavor and Leech Seed. I'm actually torn about Endeavor because while I cannot find Mudkip in the wild, the player can technically have one by trading it from another save file at the very same point of the run. Not going to use it this time, but I would really like to know what you think about it. Now let's go back to this painful run. Because if it wasn't already bad that I had to completely rely on luck against the rival, wait until you know what is the strategy against Watson. And yeah, I'm doing tons of quotation marks in the air while saying the word strategy. I mean, there's for sure a thought process, but I'm basically in the RNG hands. Let's just see the fight. My first idea was to double screech the Voltorb, use Absorb once and then Quick Attack to kill it before it had the chance to explode. This would have been good for a lot of reasons, but Voltorb has soundproof and therefore I cannot use Screech on it. I completely forgot about that ability and now I'm not sure what to do. I guess the best play is to use Swagger, and not just because the confusion damage can be really nice, but also because then Voltorb will start using Rollout instead of Spark or Shockwave, which means I have less chances to get paralyzed or get exploded on. The Rollout is likely to stop before it's too dangerous, and that's what happens. But Absorb is really weak at this point, and even with some confusion luck, I'm not able to take down Voltorb, so Watson uses a Super Potion. I predict that Voltorb is about to snap out of confusion and use Swagger again. Being slower makes this fight even worse and luck based. With a +4 attack, Rollout is doing some serious damage, and without confusion luck, I just die. It took few tries to get past Voltorb, but I eventually managed to do it with pretty much all of my HP left. Electrike is second, and there's usually no reason to talk about it since it's Watson's worst Pokemon, but this time he has the potential to ruin the battle. What usually happens is that Electrike sets up Howl, and then it either uses Quick Attack or dies before doing anything else. But Absorb is doing, once again, peanut damage, so it managed to use Leer 2 times and then lands quite a few quick attacks. Watson even uses a Super Potion, and on the last turn, afraid of taking more damage, I use Quick Attack myself, just to trigger a middle finger static. Magneton is next, and all I can do is use Swagger, use Screech, hope it knocks itself out. At least it cannot make use of the attack buff. It misses Supersonic, which is the best case scenario, but then I get fully paralyzed. The next turn it hits me, but Tricky managed to land a Swagger through confusion and paralysis. Now we are both confused and we both attack. Sonic Boom is the worst move it could have used, but at least my Screech didn't miss. Magneton then hurts itself in confusion and I boost its attack even further with Swagger. Confusion damage now should be pretty huge. But it's not like I'm going to win every coin flip. Another Sonic Boom leaves me with 8 HP, which means that I'm in overgrowth, but that's not going to matter. Unless I get a really clutch critical hit into confusion damage. That was the only way I could have won. Last is Manectric, but do you remember those 2 Leers? Yeah, I don't even get the chance to try my luck with Swagger. I have plenty of footage of my losses against Watson, but I've been talking a lot about this fight, so I'll just get to the point. This strategy and this Treecko weren't good enough, so I had to reset the whole run. Long story short, this time I'm going to focus more on my attack. Without a good special attack, I cannot use my stab move or take advantage of my ability, but it's not like Absorb and Badly Seed were doing much for me anyway. Let me quickly cover the major fights. The battle against Roxanne is pretty much the same, except that this time I already thought Badly Seed. I actually lost once due to getting a lot of Rock Tombs from the Geodudes and Nuzpass using Tackle too much, but that was just really unlucky. The fight versus Broly though, is gonna be different. As you can see, I'm unironically running Cat on my starter. I could learn Rock Tomb as well, but it's the same power with less accuracy, and I don't need to slow down my opponents. The point is that I don't really have a strategy, I didn't bother making one. I don't like to replay the same segment multiple times, so I was honestly just hoping to brute force through it. Cat deals a good chunk of damage to my chop, but then it starts using Bulk Up, so I switch to Ballacid. I get a lucky crit, but 3 hits are not enough, so I have to tank a Seismitoss, and then Broly heals. This time Ballacid doesn't crit, but it hits 5 times, which I think it's only at 10%. I'm a bit afraid of getting hit, but yet again I get a 3-hit Ballacid with a crit, and then my chop goes down. This is unbelievably lucky. Just like before, Meditite is just here to heal me back to full HP, and then Makuhita comes out. I think I still want to avoid triggering his berry, go into Overgrowth and hope for a good Ballacid roll, but for some reason I use Cat, which while deals a nice amount of damage, puts me in a position where I am pretty much guaranteed to proc his Citrus Berry. I try with Quick Attack, but yeah, not shot. A reversal does put me into Overgrowth, but Makuhita is pretty much full HP. Yeah, with that health left, not even a 5-hit Ballacid is gonna matter, so it's a reset. Wait. Wow. If this isn't the 5-hit Ballacid plus crit miracle. Good thing I refrained from clicking the reset button. Sorry to showcase such a lucky fight, but I'll just take it. The rival fight on the other hand is much more straightforward. I do get a crit on Wingull, but he's really frail, so I'm not sure if it mattered or not. I go for Swagger on Combusken as it uses Focus Energy. Next turn I hit with Screech and Peck deals a huge amount of damage. Thankfully she didn't get the crit. Cat leaves Combusken with a third of her HP, I wasn't expecting all that damage, and then it just finished itself off due to confusion. First try victory, I'm happy, and Treecky the second is feeling much better than his forerunner. But the real test is Watson. We already wasted a lot of time with him, so I'll spoil it a bit by telling you that you are seeing the winning attempt. Just know that there were 20 unsuccessful battles before this one. I immediately use Swagger on Voltorb, and while it manages to land at 2 sparks, I don't get paralyzed and I can take it down with 2 Cats plus confusion damage. Hitting Electrike might trigger his static, so I want to do it as little as possible. I use Swagger and then Screech. Electrike hits itself both turns and then I use my own Quick Attack. Static doesn't proc and I'm happy. Against Magneton there isn't anything different really. Still Swagger, Screech, Hope. But after using Screech a couple times, Cat deals a decent amount of damage, so there is that. Anyway, the good confusion luck continues, as Magneton hits itself and then Treecky the second manages to land the Screech. Thunderwave is expected and my Cherry Berry cures the paralysis. Best thing I can do is to Swagger again, since Cat would just trigger his potion, but Magneton doesn't hit itself, so I end up getting paralyzed again. The turn after it does, so we are going against Manectric with 44 HP, which is pretty nice. I need to use Screech, Cat, then Screech again and Quick Attack to finish him. This way I shouldn't even trigger the berry. But paralysis triggers, so I won't be able to pull off my plan. Swagger is the only play, so I go for it, but I get fully para again. You already know how it ends, but as I was playing I thought I had no chance. Luckily he just kept using Howl, and with such a huge attack buff, either it kills me in one hit or hits itself for a huge amount of damage. I get the latter. Twice. And with the perfect ranges possible. The first low rolls and doesn't trigger the berry, the second high rolls and doesn't give Watson the chance to heal. I also get paralyzed a third time in the process, but that just goes to show how wild the luck was in this fight. Time to finally move on. Usually my runs are more fast-paced, but this really wasn't, so it felt necessary to at least give an idea of how bad this early game was. Hopefully things will go faster now that I can breed a new Treecko and have a decent stab move in Mega Drain. But I feel like Flannery is going to be yet another brick wall. The thing with Flannery is that every single one of her Pokemon has overheat, a 140 base power fighting move, and her ace is a really bulky Torkoal that, even with the max possible special defense and HP, is still going to one-hit my Treecko. So what can I do? After beating Watson, I can catch a Sea Viper, and since it learns Crunch at level 28, I can even have a Treecko with a strong special move, but that just won't do it. The only real option to deal with Flannery is to find a Treecko with a water-type hidden power, and that's exactly what I did. Geico has a modest nature and a great special attack IV, so his water hidden power is going to hit hard. Not hard enough to one-shot Torkoal, that's for sure, but we'll get to that. First, it's due to at least show the fight against Maxi at Mount Chimney. The Mighty Hyena is annoying because of sand attack, but it doesn't give much trouble, and after a couple of unlucky misses, Geico finally takes it down. Camera up this second and gives a preview of what's gonna happen against Flannery. Hidden power makes short work of him and gives him no chance of attacking. Zubat is just Zubat, but manages to survive and deals a ton of damage with wing attack. A second crunch knocks it out, but that damage got me worried. Eventually I have to deal with Crobat, and that 35 base defense is already showing how frail Treecko is. But I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. For now, let's cross our fingers instead and go face Flannery. So there's not really much to say here. Everything that isn't Torkoal gets murdered by water, and there's no way I'm slower, so I can safely press the A button on hidden power for 3 times. But Torkoal is gonna require 2 hits, and that means she will have the chance to attack, and as I said before, I cannot survive the hit. Overhit has a 90% accuracy, but relying on a 10% chance is not really honorable. So instead I thought Swagger for some sweet Watson vibes. The chances of landing Swagger followed by Torkoal hitting itself twice are slightly above 20%, and there's always that 10% chance of missing. It's really ugly and it feels like I'm forcing this fight, but I won on the 3rd try and there's just no better play. Oh, and in case you are wondering how can I have another Treecko with Swagger, remember that for these challenges tutor moves are infinite. It's legit possible to have more Pokemon with the same tutor move by trading with another save file, so it feels right to me. Anyway, at this point I'm usually really worried about Norman and his laking, but this time I feel pretty confident. Of course I'll have to breed a Treecko with good defense, but other than that, the fight should be way easier than what I'm used to. Let's just jump into it. Surleaf, other than having the coolest name ever, has great defense and special attack, and that's all he needs. Despite not having stab, Crunch is the highest damage option, and I probably should have gone for the 2-hit KO against Spinda. But I wanted to recover some HP, so I go for Mega Drain instead, that obviously doesn't kill, and Teeter Dance confuses me. Not great. Probably that's all for the best, because now Norman uses one of his Super Potion, one less for the Slaking, and I get perfect confusion luck anyway. I don't hit myself once and I snap out after just 2 turns, landing the second crunch on Spinda. Vigoroth is second, but it has an even worse special defense, so it's another 2-hit KO with crunch. This fight is so much easier when you have a fast Pokemon, and speed is where Treecko excels the most. Being frail doesn't matter if the opponent doesn't have the chance to hit you. Linoone is third, but he's a bit bulkier, so unless I get the special defense drop from Crunch, another hit won't be enough. A Slash brings me down to 10 HP, and that means that I'm in overgrowth. Now Mega Drain deals more damage, and most importantly, it heals me back. Hopefully it will be enough to kill, but if not, I might be able to tank another hit. Just barely it seems. With a single HP, Surleaf refuses to go down and keeps fighting for his life, while Norman uses his last Hyper Potion. A second Mega Drain won't be enough to kill, but I should be out of kill range unless it crits me. Or I can crit him and not have to worry about it. Last is Laking, but this is the easy part. Treecko is faster and can learn Dig, so as long as I use it, I will be only targetable on his Loafing turns. The damage is really pitiful though, and I had to use a PP up and equip a Lepa Berry to restore my power points, but eventually he goes down. If Norman still had healing items, I would have just used Screech on the healing turn and I believe my dig PP would have still been enough. The way to 4-3 is long and have a few mandatory fights, including the Team Aqua, the Weather Institute and the Rival. The Team Aqua is yet to be a problem, and against the Rival I can use Geico's hidden power. There is often rain in this route, and you can imagine what happens to Combusken. While I show you some footage, I want to talk about Winona, which is probably the fight I fear the most in this run. On one hand, I now have access to the best moves I can learn. There's the Giga Drain TM on Route 123 and Solar Beam in the Safari Zone, as well as Sunny Day near 4-3. All great options, except that those are all grass types moves and I have to deal with the Flying Gym. Right now, the only special attack I can use are, besides Crunch, all of the grass type. So how the hell am I going to deal with Skarmory, a physical wall that resists every single one of my special moves? The obvious answer at this point would be to find a favorable hidden power to deal with it, but I don't want to abuse hidden power too much unless it's strictly necessary, and I might have an alternative plan. First of all, I have to go all the way to Lilycov's department store. To access the building, I have to fight the Rival one last time, and this time it was actually a bit challenging since I was under-leveled, but it turned out just fine. Notice how much damage Combusken's spec dealt to my Treecko. That should give an idea of how terrible the upcoming fight is gonna be. Anyway, in the roof of the department store there is a lady that teaches the player the move Substitute. We'll need that. Then I have to go really out of my way to grab that TM for Focus Punch. Yes, we are going to use a fighting move against the Flying type gym leader with a Pokémon with a low attack. The last thing I need to do is to teach Rock Tomb, and then Bob, the new Treecko, the hopefully savior of this run, is ready for the battle. So, going into this battle, I'm aware that I'll need some good luck, if anything because I'm gonna rely on Screech and Raktum, which have 85 and 80% accuracy each. And even if those don't seem like too low numbers, everyone that has played the game knows that if it's not 100% accurate, then it's 10% accurate. Anyway, against the Swablu I'm gonna set up a substitute right away, since it loves spamming things like Safeguard and Mirror Move. Then a Focus Punch is enough to take it down in one hit. It might not be super effective, but Bob has a really good attack and it's still a 150 base power move we're talking about. Second is Pelipper, and first of all I'm going to lower her defense with Screech before using Rock Tomb. Much like Swablu, she has Aerial Ace but won't use it very often. She much rather waste time with Protect or try to confuse me with Supersonic, which doesn't affect a target behind a substitute. Anyway, with -2 defense, 2 Rock Tomb are enough to take it down, and Bob manages to not miss once. Hopefully the no miss luck will continue against Tropius. Much like with Pelipper, I need to use Screech first, but unlike Pelipper, Tropius is going to attack me. But first, since I'm out of kill range, she will set up a Sunny Day. Now not only she's ready to spam Aerial Ace, but it's also faster due to her ability Chlorophyll. So the substitute is going to break, no way around it, but Rock Tomb deals over half and lowers her speed. Now Bob is faster again and can finish off Tropius with yet another Rock Tomb. No misses so far, but things can get real bad against Skarmory. I believe Skarmory will spam Sand Attack, which means that with a substitute up, I'll be able to avoid the accuracy drops while she wastes turn after turn. But as you can see, that's not happening here. The substitute is immediately broken by an Aerial Ace, and as I try to make another one, it gets destroyed as well. At this point, there's pretty much no way I can win, but I believe I just got a bit unlucky against the Skarmory, so I'm going to give it another shot. The first Pokémons play pretty much the same, but I want to use the occasion to point out that it's really important to start the battle with few HP less to trigger the Citrus Berry later. Anyway, we are back to Skarmory and you see that I was right. It does love using Sand Attack. In fact, I managed to set up the substitute and land a Screech for free. Ideally she will keep wasting turns, but as I use the second Screech, she starts attacking. Not over yet, I just need to hide behind a substitute and use Focus Punch, so I'm really hoping for 2 more Sand Attack here. The substitute is up, and there's the Sand Attack, perfect. Just one more... Heh, so close. but the substitute damage doesn't count and my focus punch lands for the one shot. A Treecko one-shotting a Skarmory with focus punch. I did not see that coming when I started this run. Sadly, even if I'm still out of kill range, Altaria is probably going to use Dragon Dance and then outspeed and kill with Aerial Ace. That's exactly what happens, but if only I had a substitute, I could have landed a Rock Tomb to lower her speed and another one to finish her off. It was just the second attempt and I got so close that I decided to stick with this strategy. And oh boy, do I regret doing so, because all those 85% and 8% chances really add up, and combined with the AI not acting consistently, it becomes a nightmare. Swablu has a low chance of using Aerial Ace or Perish Song, and that would mess up the whole plan. Pelipper sometimes uses Aerial Ace, I've seen Tropius not setting up a Sunny Day at all, and just spamming Aerial Ace. And Skarmory, by far the worst one, really needs to spam the sand attack. Finally, Altaria is supposed to be her ace, but let me tell you that there is not much she can do once I reach her in the right condition, as long as I don't miss my moves. And be sure that just when I thought I had the win in the bag, Rock Tomb missed and I had to restart again. I have dozens of tries and close calls to show, but I don't want to give any more space to this painful fight, so what you're seeing, spoiler incoming, is the winning attempt. It goes pretty much the same as attempt 2, except that Skarmory uses one more sand attack, and as Altaria comes out, I still have the substitute. First I use Screech to lower her defense, and then 2 Rock Tombs should always be enough to kill, even after her Oran Berry activates. Now that I think about it, isn't it weird that the 6th gym leader has an Oran Berry on a race? Even Broly had a Citrus Berry. Anyway, Winona is done, I am done, let's not talk about this ever again. Before I can face the next gym, there's a kinda tedious segment involving both Team Aqua and Magma, and it's usually not even worth showing, but Maxi now has a Crobat, so I think he at least deserves some attention. Bob is going to take care of him. I raised him up to the level cap and I replaced Substitute with Giga Drain. Substitute is pretty much always the best move to have on a Pokemon, but using it too much would make these runs pretty boring. Anyway, I know the AI hates to be slower, so I use Agility expecting a Scary Face. Scary Face will miss eventually and I'll get a free turn to attack, or most likely my Tiana will switch to Swagger. That's what happens the turn right after. My attack goes up by 2 stages and a calculated Persim Berry cures the confusion. The Intimidate debuff makes Bob's attack a bit less impressive, but that will have to do it. I use Focus Punch as my Tiana unsurprisingly lands a Scary Face and then Crobat comes out. Rock Tomb sadly won't be enough to one-shot, but we should be fine as long as I don't miss at the worst times. A Wing Attack deals a huge amount of damage, considering my really boosted defense and the level advantage, but thankfully it doesn't crit and I don't miss the Rock Tomb. The second Rock Tomb hits as well, as the first Super Potion is used and the same happens the turn after. Another Super Potion and another Rock Tomb, this time finally scoring the kill. But it's not over yet. 32 HP are not much to deal with Camerupt. Thankfully this doesn't have any fire type move, but I'm still in danger. Bob doesn't really have a good special attack, but he's in overgrowth, so Giga Drain should keep him alive. It doesn't even deal half, and a takedown brings him down to 17 HP. Another Giga Drain puts Camerupt down to red, but 39 HP look really bad. Earthquake is probably better than takedown, and with just 7 HP left, we were able to defeat Maxi too. I have to say this took few tries, but it was mainly due to Crobat using Confuse Ray followed by bad confusion luck. Anyway, time to move on and talk about my favorite battle of these runs, Tate and Liza. I have to bring 2 Pokemon or the twins won't accept my challenge, and it's the only instance where I allow myself to bring an actual second Pokemon into the battle. With that said, this time I'm just going to catch a Magikarp, call it Punch Bag and use it as a slot filler. Let's see how this goes. Tate and Liza opened the battle with Xatu and Claydol. I trained a new Treecko just for this battle. Varanus has a mild nature, so more special attack and less defense, along with great speed and special defense. The first turn Xatu is always going to target Magikarp because it sees a kill, so I have an easy time landing a crunch on him. As long as it doesn't see a kill with its other moves, Claydol will keep spamming Earthquake which, despite being not very effective, deals a ton of damage, but never brings Varanus down to yellow. This is really important. The turn after, a second crunch takes down Xatu and Varanus is hit by a second Earthquake. Now I'm in Overgrowth, and the remaining 3 Pokémon are all weak to grass moves. Solrock comes out and his special defense is really bad, so there's no doubt a boosted Giga Drain will take him down. Not only that, but as you can see, the healing is huge and lets me survive yet another Earthquake from Claydol, which puts once again Varanus in Overgrowth. Lunaton is out and has a significantly better special defense, but Varanus, thanks to his Miracle Seed, will always kill it in a single hit. So now it's a 1v1, but unless Claydol lands a high roll crit, I should be able to outlast the battle and obtain a fairly easy 7th badge with a first time victory. I say easy, but unless I'm playing with a Dark-type Pokémon, there are always a lot of ranges to consider in a double battle, and therefore I probably won't rate this battle as such. I'm really glad I was finally able to exploit Treecko's strengths. Good step grass-type moves boosted by Overgrowth, nice speed, and strong healing capabilities. I can already see myself using all of these against Juan, but first I should at least mention the battle against Archie. The fight is the easier version of the Archie one, with a frail Sharpedo instead of Camerupt. It still took a couple of tries due to Crobat confusing me, but there's nothing we haven't seen already. So after doing the usual Rayquaza quest, Wallace lets us enter the Sootopolis gym and we can face the final gym leader of the region. For this fight I need to have a good special attack and speed, so Varanus qualifies perfectly. I go into the battle with just 6 HP, not only because I want to be in Overgrowth, but also because I don't want Luvdisc to use Sweet Kiss or Attract. The idea is to bait Water Pulse and use Sanidate to reduce the incoming damage. That's what happens, and thankfully I don't get confused. I now realize I probably risk to get killed by Flail, but I guess it doesn't matter at this point. Anyway, with the strong sunlight I can now spam Solar Beam for 4 consecutive turns and have no doubt that not even Kindra was able to take the hit. I'll admit I needed the Miracle Seed, and this Kindra has a minus special defense nature, but it's still impressive nonetheless. The rest of Juan's team is a joke, and even if when he sends out Crawdaunt the sunlight fades, I can just use a single Giga Drain. Thanks for the healing. And with that, we have all the badges and we can move towards the Pokémon League, where the 5 final battles await. As always, at this point I get a bit impatient and tend not to consider another important fight that's mandatory before the endgame, Wally. This time though, I am a bit afraid. He has an Altaria with Dragon Dance and Aerial Ace, we already know something about that, a Magneton which also brings back bad memories, and his Gardevoir is always a threat. Even if I knew it was not going to be free, I didn't expect to get stuck. Yes, I got stuck by Wally. We are not talking about Watson or Winona stuck level, but still. The main reason is probably that I refused to train a Treecko just for this battle when I was about to train a whole team for the League Challenge. Anyway, eventually Bob pulled our way through. Altaria was not actually the biggest problem, since it would mostly try to set up Dragon Dance without actually attacking. A big problem was Roselia. Aerial Ace is a range and a bad one, so the chances of getting poisoned and losing the battle were pretty high. Here it misses, so I'm able to go past it perfectly healthy. Delcat is next, and I saw this cat pulling off some unpleasant assist shenanigans. This is not the case, and even if I miss one Iron Tail, I don't get punished for using such a low accurate move. After this run, I don't want to see inaccurate moves like this for a while. Magneton comes out, but unlike the last time, now I have Dig, which of course one-shots it. Gardevoir is last and it's actually faster, so it's best to use Rock Tomb once while it sets up a future sight. Then I thankfully hit an Iron Tail, but it starts building up Double Team. I do have Aerial Ace, but I was feeling lucky. And I was indeed. So we are past Wally, and this means it's time to come up with 5 good strategies for the last 5 trainers. And this means, of course, 5 new Treecko and a lot of breeding and general setup. Each Treecko will have its own level cap based on its opponent, and I'm hopefully going to beat the league without saving between battles. I have some shaky strategies, but I'm pretty confident I will be able to make it. Without further ado, let's see how the first attempt goes. If you happen to have seen my Cacnea solo run, this fight will look familiar, but my channel is so small that I highly doubt it. Anyway, for the second time in this run we are going to use Focus Punch. Despite my low attack, it's by far the best move I can use against Sydney, due to it being super effective against all of his Pokémon and, 150 base power. My White Herb makes sure that I don't have to play through the battle with an attack debuff, and I'm going to set up a substitute right away. The substitute not only will make my Tiana sand attack fail, but if it takes damage, Focus Punch will still go through. We've had a similar situation against Winona. Anyway, my Tiana goes for the double sand attack, which is the best case scenario, since we get to keep our substitute, and then Absol comes out. I know that the AI will most likely use a setup move if I'm not in kill range, and I made sure to never die to Absol Serial Ace from this position, so I can safely assume it will use Swords Dance. I was indeed correct, and now we have to deal with Shiftry. His only damaging move is Extrasensory, but he will spam Double Team and even threatens with Swagger. Of course here I still have my substitute, so I can't get confused, and what you're seeing is the vastly most common outcome. Shiftry uses Double Team and Focus Punch scores another one-hit KO. Cacturne is another really predictable Pokémon. Since I'm faster, it will try to slow me down with Cotton Spore, which, of course, right now I'm immune to. I know, Substitute can be a really cheap move, but without it I couldn't see a decent strategy versus Sydney. Anyway, Crowdant is last, but despite his defense, Focus Punch is still a one-shot. Here I use Giga Drain by mistake, but you can see how consistently the AI will try to set up if he doesn't see a kill. The first Elite Four member is down, first try victory, but it was also the easiest one. Let's see what the fight against Phoebe looks like. Sadly, Phoebe's first Pokémon doesn't leave me any other choice but to use Substitute again. Dusclops is a very tanky Pokémon, and unless I can one-shot it, it will likely use Curse, which is an automatic loss. As you can imagine, Curse doesn't affect a target behind a substitute, and since Phoebe will always use Protect on the first turn, I can easily set it up. And if Crunch didn't see much action until now, this is its moment to really shine. The first Dusclops is a 2-hit KO, and so would be the second one, if it wasn't for the citrus berry she's holding. Dusclops number 2 has strong offensive moves and will always use Ice Beam, which, of course, breaks my substitute. I can now use Giga Drain and tank another one, which puts Sauron in Overgrowth, really important. From this point, Crunch always kills, and next is Banette. Phoebe has 2 Banette, one of which has a minus special defense nature and dies in a single Crunch, but I believe she will send out the other one first. So, knowing I want one shot, I go for a boosted Giga Drain which heals me enough to tank a Shadow Ball. I'm in Overgrowth again and I want to make sure to keep it that way, so I use Crunch to finish off Banette. Sableye comes out and I'm gonna play it the same way I did with the previous Mon. Giga Drain heals a lot and I won't die from Sableye unless it crits. When you play into crits all the time, things like these are bound to happen. This is especially unlucky because Sableye could have used Nightshade too, but whatever, I'll just try again. There is no point of showing you another Focus Punch sweep, so I'll skip attempt 2 Sydney. As you can see, the fight against Phoebe plays pretty much the same. I think the strategy is good, but it does involve dodging 3 crits and a freeze from Ice Beam. My odds should be over 70%, which is not bad for an Elite Four member. Even if this time I got a special defense drop from Banette's Shadow Ball, Ghost moves are always physical in Generation 3, so I'm able to outlast Sableye and finally, as mentioned before, the last Manette should always die in a single crunch. Good job, Sauron. It took you 2 tries, but you did well. The next fight, though, might be brutal. Glacia has a clear type advantage, and even if Treecko doesn't have the worst special defense, it's still a really frail Pokémon, so we'll see. The biggest positive of this battle is that Glacia always follows this same pattern. If he doesn't see a kill and she can set up Hail, she will always do so. It's basically a free turn 1, but this time I'm not going to set up a substitute. Instead, since I really couldn't focus on boosting Salamander's speed with proper EV, I just set up agility. Now, I didn't mention the obvious. Salamander is not full HP. This is because I want to be in overgrowth as soon as possible, and this Celio only has Body Slam and Ice Ball as attacking moves, which don't do much damage. Sadly, due to Treeckos' abysmal physical defense, she will always go for Body Slam, which has a 30% chance to paralyze me and lose me the fight. First I set up a Sunny Day and then Body Slam doesn't paralyze, very good. So now I have 4 turns in which I can spam overgrowth boosted solar beams. Not even the Glalie that's about to come out will be able to tank the hit, despite it not being super effective. But things are going a bit differently than I expected. Apparently, for a reason that I really don't know, the second Celio is coming out first. It might not look like an issue since Solar Beam easily takes care of it, but later this might be a problem. And the problem is now confirmed by the fact that Glacia sends out Warrain third, while I was counting on it being the last. And you can see I'm hesitating, I'm not sure what to do. But in the end I don't really have a choice because healing me back with Giga Drain would put me out of overgrowth and then I would have no idea on how to defeat the last 2 Pokémon. So Solar Beam obviously one-shots and then on the last Sun turn I can take down the level 50 Glalie as well. The last Glalie comes out and this is the idea. Its damaging moves, not considering Explosion, which we'll never use in these conditions, are Shadow Ball and Ice Beam. I believe it sees a kill with both and therefore it's a 50-50 chance to use Shadow Ball. So I'm just going to use Giga Drain and hopefully that will heal me enough to tank the hit. 78 HP is good and I win the coin flip. Another Giga Drain is going to be enough and somehow I was able to get out of this fight alive. If I lose this attempt, I will have to rethink and adapt my strategy. Maybe it won't be necessary, but Drake is going to be really tough. If in extreme situations a water hidden power can make Flannery possible, the same can be applied to a certain extent to Drake, of course with an ice type hidden power. Evergreen was really hard to find because I also needed an hidden power with a decent base power, but the struggle should be worth it. Shelgon is first and will most likely use Protect on the first turn, and then, since I'm faster, it will try to slow me down with Rock Tomb. So I'm going to set up Agility first, and then my hidden power should put Shelgon into potion range. The Rock Tomb speed drop shouldn't matter because I'm still at +1 speed, and while Drake heals, a Giga Drain along with the Shell Bell almost puts Evergreen back to full HP. Now hidden power will kill, and next should be Flygon. No mistakes on the order this time. Flygon has Flamethrower, but its special defense is not too great, and it just dies to ice, so it's a one-shot. Altaria on the other hand is much bulkier and won't go down in one hit. She should use Dragon Dance because I'm out of kill range, but just to slightly increase my odds I have the egg move Dragon Breath, which might inflict paralysis. I'm not so lucky and I really am not since Altaria decides to attack. I'm way out of kill range, but this was a possibility and I think I'll just lose. Hidden power is now enough to knock it out, but Salamence is next. Thanks to my agility I do outspeed, but the only way I can barely tank his flamethrower is if I'm full HP. I'm basically just fishing for a crit here, but no clutch critical hits today. I just said that, but crit luck is not something I'm allowed to complain about for the rest of the run. Skipping to attempt free Glacia, I decide to use Giga Drain versus the second Celio to heal me back to almost full HP. Warren dies to Solar Beam even if I'm not in Overgrowth, but that doesn't apply for the Glalie after. Solar Beam is still the best option, so I go for it and get a critical hit. Really nice. The second Glalie shouldn't see a kill, and therefore I'm expecting to see Hail, so I'm not setting up Sunny Day now. I go for Giga Drain and I get a critical hit again. As I said, no more complaints about crits. Now another one should always kill, and guess what? A critical hit. 3 crits in a row, that's a 1 in 4,000 chance I believe, just twice the chance to find a shiny Pokemon. I'll take it as a good omen for the Drake fight. We've seen that the main problem are Altaria and Salamence. For the Shelgon it's going to be pretty much the same. First agility while he protects, and then hidden power to put into potion range. Or you know, crit for the 4th time in a row just to be safe. That's insane. I can safely bet any amount of money that for the rest of my life I won't see that happening again. If I can still do basic math, that should be a 1 in 65,000 chance, please correct me if I'm wrong. With this amount of luck, I'm expecting a lot of good things from attempt 3. Anyway, Flygon goes down, and then Altaria hopefully will use Dragon Dance this time. That's what happens, so now all is left to do is to survive Salamance's Flamethrower. Or maybe with this luck I'll get some paralysis hacks going with Dragon Breath and I won't lose a single HP. That's of course asking too much, but as you can see, Evergreen is indeed able to tank one hit and survives with 9 HP. Hidden Power finishes the job, and last is Kindra, which, like for me, doesn't have Ice Beam. It has Body Slam though, so this is not over yet. An Overgrowth Giga Drain does half and heals me back more than enough to tank a Surf. I guess Kindra saw a kill with both Surf and Body Slam, so once again, really good luck. And I'm back in Overgrowth, so play the champion music because Drake is not done. I must have rolled a really high Giga Drain before. And now Kindra uses Body Slam and gets the paralysis. This isn't looking good. He's now going to heal so I can get back some HP, but I'll need to paralyze him with Dragon Breath if I want to have a chance. The healing from Giga Drain thankfully puts me out of kill range, but this also means that Kindra might set up Dragon Dance, or use Smokescreen. I love accuracy drops, especially when they make you miss a move right away. Then he sets up a Dragon Dance which makes me unable to outspeed even if I get the paralysis I need. But no worries, after a single Smokescreen I'm not able to hit anything at all. At this point all I can hope for is a crit or really good paralysis luck with Dragon Breath, assuming that I don't die in a single Body Slam. I do survive with just 5 HP, but then none of my winning condition happens, so I just lose. After all that good luck, I couldn't make it to the champion. And either I was being lucky before, or I just started to be really unlucky. Attempt after attempt, I kept losing due to unlikely AI behaviors, critical hits, and awful paralysis luck. Not only that, but as it turns out, the best way I have to deal with Glacia is the one you saw on attempt 2. Assuming the first Celio doesn't paralyze me, I need the last Glalie to select Shadow Ball instead of Ice Beam, and then, if I don't get crit, I win. And after that, I still have Drake to defeat. You've just seen the fight, and you know that I don't need crazy luck to defeat him, so let's just cut to the winning battle. This time Shelgon doesn't use Rock Tomb at all. Much like Phoebe's Dusclops, he is likely to spam Protect and fail in the process, so when I take it down, I have my full +2 speed from agility. Flygon is blah blah blah, and then Altaria comes out. It sets up a Dragon Dance like it's supposed to, and then after softening him up with Dragon Breath, one Hidden Power takes it down. I told you this is a winning attempt, so you already know I'm not going to get crit or burnt by Salamence, and as the Kindra comes out, I have slightly more HP compared to the last time. This time I'm going to play around the full restores, so after getting decently healthy, I use one Hidden Power to keep it out of healing range, and then, after a useless Dragon Dance, Kindra goes down to one last Giga Drain. At this point, I've been playing this league challenge for almost 2 real-life hours, but I managed to reach the champion without saving between battles. The only reason I persisted is that I have some really good chances to defeat the champion on the first try. After all, it's a water-type trainer against a grass-type starter. finally I can play some good Gen 3 champion music. Wailord is first, and Mr. Green, thanks to his pretty good special defense, can just barely survive a blizzard. There's a chance Wailord will use Rain Dance, but I'm still going for the Sunny Day. That's what happens, but it doesn't really matter. Now I'm 100% sure he will use Blizzard, and that's all I need to know. Mr. Green can take the hit, and at 19 HP, Overgrowth is obviously active. Given Wailord's huge HP pool, Giga Drain will bring me back to full HP, which is really important, because Tentacruel is gonna come out next, and if I want to survive a Sludge Bomb, I cannot afford to have any HP missing. The only way I lose is if it uses Toxic or if Sludge Bomb poisons me. I'll just have to cross my fingers one last time, but that's a funny looking Tentacruel. Even writing this part of the script afterwards is depressing. My whole strategy was based around the fact that Tentacruel was the second Pokémon to come out. With a Solar Beam plus an Overgrowth boosted Solar Beam, Tentacruel would have gone down and same goes for the Milotic, but with this order I cannot get to the Tentacruel full HP and therefore I won't have 2 turns to attack. I didn't even give a real chance to this battle and died to Milotic. But the problem is that with Treeckos moves and stats, there is not really much room to find another strategy that doesn't rely on things like Double Team. Mr. Green is also one of the best Pokemon I've ever used IV wise, so it's not like I can just get a better one and win. But this run taught me something that, even if not reliable, might be the only way to win this fight. With that said, I am giving up on the idea of winning without saving between battles. All that trouble for a really luck-based champion fight would drive me insane, and I don't think it's worth it. So let's see champion attempt 2 with strategy number 2. This time you can see Mr. Green's stats on the right. I didn't show them before because I only took a screenshot with the final values and I changed a bit the EV distribution for this new strategy. Yes, those IV are insane and took me a lot of time to find him. Anyway, I'll deal with Wailord the same way than before, but with a bit less special defense, so Blizzard has a couple of rolls that actually kill me. I also need it to bring me down to no more than 15 HP, and you'll see why later. 7 HP is perfect, and as you might have guessed, this time I'm not healing with Giga Drain. While in Overgrowth, Solar Beam not only one-shots Wailord, but it also one-shots the Milotic right after, so we made it to the Tentacruel. Now, Tentacruel has 3 damaging moves: Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam, which I would just barely survive at full HP, and Hydro Pump. Due to the strong sunlight, Hydro Pump's lowest roll is only 17, but right now it's still always enough to kill, just like Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam. So if I use Giga Drain and I get the 1 in 3 chance Hydro Pump, I will deal a good amount of damage, survive the heat, and then on the next turn, thanks to my Miracle Seed, Solar Beam is enough to take it down. I don't think I'm really good at expressing my emotions between the fact that I'm not a native English speaker and I'm still not used to talking to a mic. But believe me when I say, I'm really happy just describing that moment. But even after Tentacruel, there's a slight chance to lose the battle, and that should be no surprise when you only have 17 HP left and the champion has 3 Pokemon left. The next one is Ludicolo, that, like for me, can only damage me with Surf and Giga Drain. My own Giga Drain lets me survive a weak but dangerous Surf, and that's what happens 2 turns in a row. Then I know he's gonna heal, and I make a potentially fatal mistake. Instead of setting up an agility, I use Sunny Day, which means that if I want the speed buff for later, I must waste a really precious Sun turn. That's what I end up doing, but then I really fail to damage control, as I try to stall some turns to set up Sunny Day again at the last moment. Ludicolo has Double Team, and if he sets up too many, I'm in real danger. So I changed my mind and go for the kill. But as Whiscash comes out, the sunlight fades. Of course, I'm not worried about the 4 times weak to grass Pokemon that is only there to heal me back to full HP. The problem is Gyarados. 2 solar beams would have been enough, but now I must use a turn to set up Sunny Day. Luckily it uses Earthquake instead of Dragon Dance, but now I'm in Hyper Beam kill range, so I use Giga Drain to hopefully get out of it. It does use Hyper Beam. I have 125 HP left. Will it be enough to survive? 3 HP. And with Overgrowth active, Solar Beam will kill Gyarados and win the final fight. What a run! I have to say, I might have played with worse Pokemon, but the dream crushing ending with Treecko almost made me quit this run. But overcoming the last obstacle felt really good afterwards, and I'd say it made up for it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I believe it will be an extra long one, and I'm talking since forever, so even if I have something in mind for the next run, I won't be spoiling anything. I put a lot of effort in these videos, and any feedback is always appreciated, so consider leaving a comment. For now, back to theory crafting.